Welcome back to Weekend Express as we continue to dissect the education sector in the country. Where are we? And before we went for that break, we were discussing the CBC and to Dr. Julius. CBC, how do we ensure that it gets to achieve what it's meant to achieve?
Thanks, Dennis. Number one, there are a few thoughts here. If I remove the word C at the end, we have basically competency-based education. So we need to begin to address the issue of CBC from that concept. When you look at the 21st century skills and survival skills, top on the list today is adaptability. I am sure that can be attained based on what children go through. When you also look at comparative education, like we look at the British national curriculum, they have attributes. There are 5 of the attributes. Being a reflective learner. A reflective learner is not far from self-efficacy and self-efficacy for the case of CBC. Being a kind of a good communicator. We have communication and collaboration for this side. It talks about being a connector, networking. There is citizenship, there is global perspective. So basically when you look at comparative education, while the British national curriculum uses learner attributes, we use the word competencies. They are all the same. When you look at the International Baccalaureate, they also use learner profiles, which are the same as our competencies. So basically what I'm saying is that there is no new curriculum. It is education reforms to meet the 21st century needs. So we need to address it from the concept of basic competency-based education. What is the learner able to do after studying the course? After all, in everyday's life, including cooking ugali, it's as a result of a competency. Yeah, you must have a skill to do that ugali with all the knowledge that you have, you know. So we are just trying to change the knowledge-based content into activity-based content. And looking at it, it means that it makes every learner to be successful in their own way. CBC, therefore, is simply the content we had in 844 revamped. Number 2, we have continually gone as a country, people comparing a system and a curriculum. Those are 2 different things. I hear people talk about 844 system and CBC curriculum. I get confused because these are 2 different things completely. In 844 as a structure, it left out a very fundamental area, early years education. It only said 8 years in primary, 4 years in secondary, 4 years in university. There was nothing like early year education. And basically the best quality education asked for early years. But then is one thing we must take cognizance of. The change in any education reforms is driven by teachers. I have never seen parents of British whose children are in Cambridge education or International Baccalaureate being called to be trained about a curriculum. And why? The teachers in offering that are well trained on how to interpret the curriculum. Our teachers have not been trained. Let us not lie to ourselves. I would request this government and Good Enough Kenya Kwanza, top on the list of Kenya Kwanza's manifesto, which I'm very happy about, to be honest, is to pay for in-service courses for teachers. We have teacher professional development now. I would really request for the government to pay because it introduces teachers to 7 standards. And one of the standards is professionalism. Another standard is competency-based education and pedagogy. Another standard is inclusive health and comprehensive health. Another one is inclusive education. Another standard is financial literacy. Another standard is instructional leadership. That is exactly what CBC wants. So if the government invested in teacher training and not what I have seen happening being called a training, when the teachers have just been introduced to a concept, teachers go into a workshop for a day, they are taken through slides. That is introduction to a concept. In fact, 8% introduction to a concept. But real teaching needs to bring training, needs to bring teachers up to interpreting the curriculum designs, moving away from objective-based teaching to outcome-based, rearranged using the 21st century revised Bloom's taxonomy.
Yeah, let me just talk to Mwalimu. Daktari, so there is the issue of training that Daktari here says has not really happened. As someone who is on the front line, how should the government approach this? Because when we are on the break, Dr. was saying that you find teachers have been asked to train students to swim. The teachers themselves don't know how to swim. The children themselves are swimming on Sundays, calling it sanding. So how then do we ensure that the teachers are trained to a level that they can be able to then give out the very best to these children at the basic level to ensure that CBC achieves what is in the blueprint, the fine print of that curriculum?
Thank you very much, Dennis. And just as Daktari has explained it very nicely, I concur with him. For us to achieve stability of education, CBC, I think, can help us. CBC is experiential kind of education, whereby you do.
Yeah.
Now, on the side of teachers, actually, in the curriculum, when we talk of that, we are talking about the implementation of the CBC. It involves two areas. It involves changing the attitude, and your question zeroes down on teachers, the training of teachers. Teachers are already trained, but it is the in-servicing of teachers. I believe this cannot be done by a seminar. I believe this cannot be done by a workshop of 3 to 4 days. Another thing, the administrators who are training these teachers, because they have to work on the teacher's attitude for it to suffice well, because teachers are the key agents of change to implement the CBC. So who are training them? Who are the supervisors? Are they able to translate the curriculum designs into classroom activities? On the ground, what have we seen when you go around schools? Teachers have come to a level whereby the involvement of the new terms in CBC, like a topic moving to strand, subtopic moving to substrand, you'll find now a teacher writing a lesson plan and saying by the end of the substrand, meaning by the end of the topic, not by the end of the lesson. They have gone through those trainings, they call them the trainings, but they cannot translate the curriculum designs into classroom activity, and also changing people's attitudes to accept and participate in the activities. This is whereby you have the local community, the parents, the role of parents, the role of the churches who are key sponsors. Go to a place like Kisumu town. Nearly all schools are sponsored by the ACK church. How are they sensitized into what is going on? How are they trained? So, providing the materials and even administrative means is very important. Building where the minister, the cabinet secretary goes inspecting schools which are being built himself is not enough. The immediate community must be involved. Why? Because at the early years education, if you look at the blueprint, it says the learning activities, the material should be gotten from the environment. Who are providing these learning materials? From the environment.
The community.
It's the community. And where are they in CBC?
Yeah. So now as we wind up, let's talk about the task force that has been put in place by the government, which was launched by the Deputy President. what should they be looking at solving as they start doing their jobs? Yeah. And how then do they ensure that the things we've talked about involving the community, the churches and the parents, that they also understand the importance of this new curriculum, as they call it, and ensuring that it is a success? I'll start with you, then to Malizan Daktari.
The task force, first of all, should, step number one, to evaluate their deliverables. That's very critical. Evaluate their deliverables and align the deliverables with the scope, because they want to cover from this level to this level. And then once they have done that critically very well, I know they will go into cluster groups and decide who is dealing with what, who is dealing with what. But for me, their keen interest should focus on quick-term education reforms across the globe. What already exists is there, from the basic level to the highest level. So their responsibility is to look at those deliverables, the expected outcomes as per their mandate, and deal with it effectively. Number two, I will also want to advise them not to be partisan to any side.
Yeah.
We have the private sector, we have the public sector, we have people with personal interests. They should look at the child. At the end of it all, I see you media guys, you call us here, you call people here, call children here.
Yeah.
Let's hear what the children are saying, you know.
Yeah.
How do they want to learn? Because me, I say, if a child does not want to learn the way you teach, teach that child the way he or she wants to learn.
Yeah.
So
The CBC.
the CBC approach.
Yeah.
So bring children to media, interview them. Parents, for me, parents, in as far as they will participate in public participation, with which curriculum or which, parents must always take their responsibility. Whether my child is in which curriculum, as a parent, there is a part I must play. And the part that I must play must always not be controlled by a specific curriculum, but controlled by the societal needs.
Okay. Daktari, in 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. When we talk of the task force, we know very well the CBC has been there for maybe now this is the 6th year. It is still on progress, and it has not gone beyond primary. Evaluation might even be very difficult, because what we see right now, I'm a bit skeptical to say it is a political thing, because education reform is a political exercise. But the concern, they should really factor in, adding with what my colleague has said, the dictatorship we are seeing in education should be eliminated, whereby parents dictate on the education, teachers dictate on the education, and that borrows much from the old system. So it should be open, whereby they reach out to everybody. And even another element of education which is being left out, this is education for life. The informal, non-formal education, the prior learning should also be factored in, because that is a very key element in CBC. And even chaplaincy. Chaplaincy starting from PP1 up to university, because we are saying it is a CBC's education for value. Who takes care of the affective domain of these children in pre-primary 1 to about those teachers? Who takes care of them? Yes.
Yeah. Very well. It has been well put out there that we all must take our initiative as the society in making sure that whichever curriculum that comes there, we must get involved. I was having this conversation with Dr. Julia Sotundo, education consultant, and Dr. Milka Ajoga, senior lecturer at St. Paul's University. This conversation definitely must continue. And even as the task force continues to do its job as prescribed by the government, we hope that they will meet and sit down with the likes of Daktari, who's with me in the house today, as they seek to find a CBC that will indeed achieve its aspirations. My name is Dennis Aseto. This was Weekend Express. I will see you again at 1 p.m. for Weekend 1. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.